there's the other one. I'm Chris Wolvie, the wrestling blogger who always tells it like it is. I wanted to do my usual post-WrestleMania rant episode, but I came down with a nasty cold and wasn't sleeping well, so I decided to skip that. But I will brag about my record, 13 for 20 for WrestleMania and Stand and Deliver. So I went down a bit from last year. Back then I was 14 for 21, or 66.66 repeating percent. This year I was 65%. Still pretty damn good, even if I missed the main event. But let's face it, after what happened between Roman Reigns' continued reign and the Raw after WrestleMania, was what everyone was wondering about. In case you missed it, or forgot about it, Vince McMahon finally found a buyer for the WWE. It's a company called Endeavor, and among its other holdings is the Ultimate Fighting Championship. Yes, the same sports/entertainment association that the WWE essentially moved premium live events to Saturday in order to compete with. Apparently that plan failed. Now the big thing is that when, or even if, there are a few lawsuits threatening it, the sale goes through, the WWE and UFC will be together in one company. They even already have a stock symbol for it when it happens, TKO. Kind of makes sense, as WWE superstars are trying to technically knock out their opponents, while UFC fighters try to do it for real. When Chief Creative Officer Triple H came out on the Raw after WrestleMania, he did acknowledge all the hype about the sale, though it didn't specifically mention who the buyer was. But the rest that he would say about the sale is, the WWE is not going anywhere. One would take that as a reason for the sale in the wrong context, but he meant that the company wasn't going to change even after the sale was finalized, and that WrestleMania 40 in Philly will be just as great, if not greater, than the one they just finished the previous night. But will it though? Yes, Endeavor has several such companies under their umbrella, and they all seem to work relatively autonomously from each other, but the sale report says that the UFC and WWE will merge. And even if neither sport changes, you don't honestly think that the UFC isn't going to have some say in WWE affairs and vice versa, do you? Now, the two companies have been rivaling for the pay-per-view dollars ever since the UFC came into being in the 1990s. And Dana White's pushing of UFC stars was making the rivalry quite intense. After all, he was essentially saying, hey, why watch men fake beating each other up when you can actually watch men actually beat each other up instead? And some UFC stars decided to try their hand at professional wrestling and were lured away by Vince's wallet. The likes of Ken Shamrock, Dan Severn, and Ronda Rousey decided they have had enough blows to the face and chest and wanted the easier route. Not that the UFC didn't lure others their way. Brock Lesnar left nearly 20 years ago to pursue a short but profitable career in the octagon before returning to the four-sided rope ring. Not to mention the fact that they haven't mentioned anything since. They've just been concentrating on the draft. When the WWE bought out WCW and ECW back in 2001, it made sense. They were fighting each other for the sports entertainment buck, and Vince came out on top. But merging two quite different sports companies together under one general name, that might lead to some unexpected and in some ways unwanted consequences. I mean, will the pit fight now be a training ground for UFC fighters? Will people like Bobby Lashley or Matt Riddle have to go to UFC just to show the rookies how it's done, whether they want to or not? You know, like they do with NXT. Will there be a mixed PLE with a wrestling ring side by side with a UFC caged ring? Well, let's face it, as much as I'd like to think these two companies will still operate separately from each other, this will at least affect the scheduling of WWE PLEs on Peacock, and UFC PPVs on ESPN Plus. If Endeavor wants both companies to thrive under their roof, they really need to make sure there is as little interaction between them as possible. But you know, we won't know if that will happen until the sale is finalized. Then, and only then, will the other shoe drop. Whether as light as a ballet slipper or as hard as Andre the Giant's size 22s, that's how the WWE and UFC will be affected. I'm Chris Wolvie, the wrestling blog who always tells it like it is. Stay safe, pray for peace, and I'll see you